Let me ask you something. And I want you to be honest, not with me, but with yourself. How many times have you opened your bank account, looked at the number, and felt that quiet embarrassment? That low, familiar shame that you don't talk about at dinner. That you don't post about. That lives somewhere between your chest and your stomach. You make money. You're not irresponsible. You're not lazy. And yet, it disappears. Every single month, it disappears. And the worst part? You already know what you're supposed to do. Spend less. Save more. Everyone knows that. You've read the articles. You've downloaded the apps. You've made the spreadsheets. So why doesn't it work? Here's what nobody tells you, and what most financial advice completely misses. The problem isn't your budget. It's not your income. It's not even your discipline. It's something much older than all of that. Something that was built into you long before you had a salary. Long before you had bills. Long before you even understood what money really was. What we're going to talk about today isn't a saving strategy. It's something deeper. Something that, once you see it, you can't unsee it. Think about your earliest memory of money. Not a concept. A real memory. Maybe it was watching your parents argue at the kitchen table. Maybe it was hearing "we can't afford that" so many times it stopped feeling like a sentence and started feeling like an identity. Maybe it was the opposite. Maybe money was always there, and nobody ever talked about it seriously, so you grew up thinking it would always just be there. Whatever that memory is, it shaped you more than any financial course ever could. Here's the thing most people don't want to admit: money is not a math problem. It never was. Math is just the surface. Underneath it, money is one of the most emotionally loaded subjects in human life. It carries meaning. It carries memory. It carries fear, pride, guilt, love, resentment, sometimes all at once. And when you struggle to save, what you're usually experiencing isn't a failure of discipline. It's a psychological response. It's your nervous system doing exactly what it was trained to do. There's a concept in psychology called financial self-sabotage. And it doesn't look like recklessness. It looks completely reasonable from the inside. It looks like a treat you deserved. A purchase that made sense. A moment where you thought, "I'll start saving next month." But next month always looks exactly like this month. Because the pattern isn't in the calendar. It's in you. There's a particular kind of person who spends money the moment they receive it. And if you ask them why, they'll give you a rational answer. The rent was due. The car needed something. A friend was in town. Life happened. And they're not lying. Life did happen. It always does. But here's what's really going on underneath that, and this took me a long time to understand. When someone grows up in an environment where money was unstable, where it came and went without warning, where there was never quite enough, the brain learns something very specific. It learns that holding onto money is pointless. Because it won't last anyway. So you might as well use it now. You might as well get something real from it, something you can touch, something that feels certain, because the money itself never felt certain. Psychologists call this a scarcity mindset. But that phrase doesn't fully capture what it feels like from the inside. From the inside, it feels like urgency. It feels like relief when you spend. It feels like the money was burning a hole in your pocket, and spending it was the only way to make that feeling stop. That's not weakness. That's a survival response. Your brain learned that money disappears, so it helped you disappear at first, on your own terms. The problem is, you're not a child anymore. The circumstances changed. But the wiring didn't. And you can't change a pattern you haven't named yet. So let's name it. Here's something that almost never gets talked about in financial conversations. Some people don't save money because, somewhere deep down, they don't believe they're the kind of person who does. Read that again slowly. It's not about the amount. It's not about the opportunity. It's about identity. About the story you carry, quietly, unconsciously, about who you are in relation to money. Maybe you grew up watching people around you live paycheck to paycheck. And you loved those people. They were your family. your community. And there's a loyalty that forms around shared struggle. An invisible code that says, this is who we are. This is what people like us do. And then you try to save. And it feels strange. Almost like a betrayal. Like you're pretending to be someone you're not. Like you're reaching for something that belongs to a different kind of person. That feeling has a name too. Psychologists call it upper limiting. The moment you start getting close to a version of yourself that feels unfamiliar, something inside you pulls the brake. Creates a crisis. Finds a reason to spend. Restores the familiar. Not because you're broken, but because the identity you built kept you safe for a long time. The version of you that couldn't save, that version survived. And survival creates loyalty. But here's the quiet question underneath all of this. What if that version of you has already done its job? What if it got you here, and here's exactly where something new can begin? You don't have to blow up who you are. You just have to gently, honestly ask, is this still true? Or is this just familiar? Familiar and true are not the same thing. Let's talk about something most people recognize immediately but rarely admit out loud. The relationship between emotion and spending. Not the obvious version, not the retail therapy joke, not the treat yourself meme. The real version. The one that happens at 11 p.m. on a Tuesday when you're not even sad, exactly. Just empty. Just a little numb. And somehow, 30 minutes later, you've bought something you didn't need and won't remember wanting. That's not random. That's a cycle. And it runs on a very specific fuel. Here's how it works. Something happens, stress at work, a difficult conversation, a moment of loneliness, even just boredom. Your nervous system registers discomfort. And your brain, which has spent years learning what makes that discomfort go away quickly, reaches for its fastest solution. For a lot of people, that solution is spending. Not because they're shallow. Not because they don't care about their future. But because spending works. In the short term, it genuinely works. There's a real neurological reward. Dopamine. Anticipation. The brief, clean feeling of control in a moment that felt out of control. The purchase isn't really about the thing. It's about the feeling the thing temporarily replaces. And here's where it gets complicated. Because afterward, after the dopamine fades, after the package arrives and sits unopened, after the credit card notification, comes something else. Guilt. Frustration. A quiet voice that says, you did it again. And what do people do with guilt and frustration? They reach for comfort. You see the cycle now. It's not a discipline problem. It's a regulation problem. You never learned, or were never taught, how to sit with discomfort without immediately resolving it. And in a world designed to sell you the resolution before you've even fully felt the feeling, that's not a personal failure. That's an architecture problem. But knowing the architecture is the first step to living differently inside it. By now, you might be expecting a list. 5 steps. 7 habits. A morning routine involving a cold shower and a spreadsheet. That's not what this is. Because here's what I've come to believe, after sitting with this topic long enough to stop having easy answers about it, the way out of a psychological pattern is never through force. It's through understanding. Real understanding. The kind that lands not just in your head, but somewhere quieter. Let me explain what that actually looks like in practice. Most saving advice treats the symptom. It says, automate your savings, hide the money from yourself, use the envelope system. And those things can help. Genuinely. But if the root is still untouched, the system eventually breaks. Because you find a way around it. You always do. Not because you're weak, but because the deeper need is still there, still hungry, still looking for resolution. The real shift happens when you start developing what psychologists call affect tolerance. The ability to feel an uncomfortable emotion without immediately needing to escape it. To sit with the anxiety, the boredom, the loneliness, just a little longer than feels comfortable. Not forever. Just long enough to make a different choice. That sounds small. It isn't. Because every time you pause, every time you feel the pull to spend and you just wait. 10 minutes. 20. Every single one of those moments is you rewriting the pattern. Slowly. Quietly. Without drama. And here's the other piece that matters, the one that takes the most honesty. You have to grieve the version of the future you've been spending toward. Because a lot of emotional spending is really about hope. The new outfit that means you'll feel confident. The gadget that means your life will be more organized. The vacation that means you'll finally rest. You're not buying the thing. You're buying the feeling of a life that feels slightly more okay than this one. And that's deeply human. There's nothing wrong with wanting that. But at some point, you have to look at that pattern clearly and ask, has it delivered? Has the spending ever actually brought you to that feeling? Or has it just given you a few hours of relief before the original emptiness returned? The answer to that question, if you're honest, is where the real change begins. Not in the budget. In the mirror. If you've made it this far into this video with me, and I mean really made it, not just had it playing in the background while you scrolled, then I want to say something directly to you. Hit that subscribe button. Join this channel. Because what we do here isn't surface level. We don't do quick fixes or empty motivation. We talk about the things underneath the things. And we do it every day. If this conversation today felt like something you needed to hear, there's more where this came from. Now, back to where we were. Because we're not done yet. You've spent years believing the problem was your income. Or your circumstances. Or the economy. Or the fact that life is just expensive now and what can you really do about it? And some of that is real. Cost of living is real. Wages stagnating is real. The system is genuinely hard to navigate. But here's the turning point, the one that separates people who eventually find financial stability from those who don't. It's not a raise. It's not a windfall. It's a decision that happens internally, quietly, without fanfare. It's the moment you stop waiting for external conditions to change before you start showing up differently. Because the truth is, and this is the part that stings a little, the version of you that's waiting for more money to start saving, is the same version that will find a reason not to save when the money arrives. The behavior doesn't follow the income. The behavior has to change first. That's not a comfortable thing to sit with. I know. But comfort was never really what this channel is about. What this is about is something harder and more valuable than comfort. It's clarity. And once you have it, real clarity, not the kind that fades after a motivational video, something shifts. Not dramatically. Not overnight. But in the small decisions. In the pause before the purchase. In the quiet moment where you choose the future version of yourself over the immediate version of your feelings. That's where it starts. Right there. In that pause. Here's what I want to leave you with. Not a strategy. Not a number. Not a percentage of your income you should be saving by Friday. Just this. You were never broken. You were never lazy. You were never bad with money in some fundamental, unchangeable way. You were a person responding to what life taught you, and doing it the only way you knew how at the time. That deserves some compassion. Real compassion. Not the kind that excuses the pattern, but the kind that makes it possible to look at it clearly without flinching. Because you can't change what you can't face. And you can't face what you haven't forgiven yourself for. The people who quietly, steadily build financial stability over time, they don't have more discipline than you. They don't have a secret system. What they have, most of the time, is a different relationship with themselves. A kind of internal honesty that doesn't spiral into shame. That can look at a bad month and say, okay, what actually happened there? And what do I want to do differently? That's the whole thing. That's all of it. The saving is just what happens when that relationship gets healthier. There's a verse that has stayed with me through a lot of hard seasons. Proverbs 4 verse 23. Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. Everything. Including what you do with money. Because money follows attention. Attention follows values. And values live in the heart. When the inside changes, the outside eventually has no choice but to follow. So guard what you let in. Guard the story you tell yourself about who you are. Guard the quiet moments where the real decisions are actually made, long before you ever open your wallet. If this video did something for you today, if it landed somewhere real, hit that subscribe button and share this with 5 people who need to hear it. Not because they're struggling, but because this is the kind of conversation that changes the quality of how people think. And that ripple matters. Leave a comment below. A real one. Not just great video. Tell me what actually hit you. Tell me where you recognized yourself. And tell me, what do you want us to talk about next? What's the conversation you haven't been able to find anywhere else? I'll be here.